Am I the asshole for contributing to one of my children's college fund and not the others? I, 46 female, have 2 daughters, Anne, 18, and Bella, 16. Anne is from my first marriage, and her dad and I maintain a good relation. We started a college savings fund for her when she was born, and her dad monthly puts money in it. As per our agreement, I am not obliged to match the amount he gives. My financial situation and he is understanding of that. I deposit as much as I can. Anne has always known about it, but she didn't know how much she has saved up. My relation with Bella's father is different. We had a short relationship, and he never took part in her upbringing. I started a college savings fund for her as well, but all she gets from her dad is a small amount as child support that is honest insufficient even to pay for her expenses, let alone to save for college. As a mom who loves her daughters equally and does not want one of them to be worse off, I have been depositing more money towards Bella's funds than Anne's. Anne still has more money saved than Bella, but I must admit that almost all of the money I saved for their funds went towards Bella's to make up for their unequal conditions. When Anna went to college this year, it was time to open her account and let her know how much she had. She was a bit disappointed her funds will likely not be enough to support her throughout college and university. Now she has asked her dad about how much he has been contributing to her fund, and figured out that I contributed almost nothing. She confronted me about it and asked about Bella's funds, and I had to admit I have been giving Bella much more than I have been giving her. She is mad that I have been giving Bella more money and argues that I should take some of Bella's saving and give her, as she believes I have been treating her unequally and she should not be the one to be disadvantaged by Bella's father's lack of support. I feel conflicted. While I understand Anne's point of view, I also think that a mother should devote her means proportionally to their child's needs. If, say, one of them had a special need, I would absolutely spend more time and care, no questions asked. If one of them has a financial need that is not her fault, why would I act differently? Anne is now very mad at me. She said I treat her differently, and that her father's money indirectly went to Bella. I think Anne's father will at some point be involved and I will owe him explanation as well. But I want to stand my ground and make sure Bella is not disadvantaged in relation to her sister. So, am I the asshole for giving more money to one of my children's college fund than the others? Edit. Just to clarify. Anne's dad deposits the amount directly into her fund account. I don't take the money from there. But this is what makes it possible for me to deposit more towards Bella, because otherwise I would split my deposits between them. Edit 2. Thanks everyone for your answers. I may not have time to reply to each individually, but I appreciate all of them regardless of agreeing with me or not. I try to be the best I can to both my daughters. As some mentioned, treating fairly does not mean treating equally. I feel conflicted and I think Anna is not wrong to feel upset, but I pray she will understand one day. Everyone's kind words and support give me peace of mind and the feeling I am not alone. I am just a mother trying to be good. Thanks for so much love and kindness. Heart. Not the asshole. Fair doesn't mean equal. You've been fair to each child given the circumstances. You're making sure that in the end, as close as you can, both results are close to equal even if your contributions are not. Not the asshole. Anne needs to cool it. What you actually did is make sure your daughters had equal amounts. That's fair. Anne may be upset about the money going to Bella, but no amount of money makes up for actually having an involved dad. Not the asshole. You're a rock star mom who is going beyond for her children. I'm sorry Anne doesn't understand, but one day she will. Heart. Not the asshole. Anne is being very entitled and selfish. You made your daughters have an equal start, not an unequal one. Your explanation is exactly what it should be if her father asks you personally contribute extra to Bella's fund so both children have equal funds overall. This in no way is indirectly giving his money to Bella, all his money is going to Anne. Not the asshole. Money for college from parents is a privilege, not a right. A ton of parents don't give a dime for their kids' college education. I know my parents didn't. Ask Anne why it's fair for Bella to have less for college just because her father was a deadbeat. How is that fair? Does Anne not realize that she's basically asking you to stunt Bella's future so that she can have a bit more money for college? Does she not like her sister? You are the asshole. Your intentions are good and I could understand giving your older daughter a smaller share of your contributions, but almost nothing is a slap in face and bound to make your daughter resent you. You also lied by omission to her and her father. Info. Did you mislead Anna and her dad by giving them the impression you were contributing more than you actually were? YTA because you have essentially left your oldest daughter's college fund entirely up to her father and put almost all of your free money into your youngest. Your oldest only has so much because her father has stepped up and taken on the responsibility. It's very unequal treatment for your kids. Am I the asshole for not wanting to attend my niece's wedding? My niece, one of my best friend's daughter that I've known for the past 20 years. I've seen her grow up into a young adult and shared a lot of familial time, so I became the de facto male figure in her life. I love her more than life itself and could not be more proud of her even if she was my own daughter. She's a very empathetic person, and it can sometimes lead her to make decisions based on her emotions even if they don't make sense logically. She started dating her current boyfriend in high school and it was obvious from the start that she fell for him hard. When I first met him he seemed like a good kid and took them out to lunch a couple times. Everything was going well until the red flag started appearing. He had a constant need to know where she was or else he'd be upset. His anger was described to me as explosive and psychotic. He's lied and cheated on her multiple times and gas-lit her to believe it was her fault. They would break up constantly, a couple of those times they were living together, and he would say and do things on social media to intentionally hurt her. She's totally devoted to him while he's shown nothing but disrespect and disregard for her. There's years' worth of behavior like this. I used to talk to her about her problems with her relationship and how there were objective red flags and warning signs that needed her attention. But her response was always, "But I love him." After a while I gave up. We still see each other to have lunch or coffee and talk, but she knows how I feel about her relationship and we just don't talk about it. Recently we met up with one of her friends to have lunch. At one point her friend asked me if I would attend a wedding if my niece and her boyfriend got married. I responded no, and my niece got really upset. She said she was planning on having me give her away at her wedding and she couldn't believe I wouldn't support her. I told her that I don't approve of her relationship and that I couldn't in good conscience give her away to that kind of guy. We went back and forth for a while, she ended up crying a little bit, and we ended the night shortly after. Giving away the bride at a wedding traditionally is a gesture of trust, and I have no trust in him to keep her safe and secure. He's shown no effort to get to know or endear himself into the family that he'd possibly marry into, or to show that he has the capacity to keep my niece safe at any level of the word. I love my niece, but I feel strongly that if I were to give her away at her wedding simply as a way to support her, it would be disingenuous. We've talked since and we've come to understanding about why everything was said. I still think about the implications of that conversation and how it could have gone about differently. I feel like I'm coming from a place of integrity, but I wonder if I'm just being unreasonable. My friends agree I did the right thing, but it still bothers me. Am I the asshole? Edit. I want to make it clear that I have in no way disassociated myself with her or turned my back on her completely because of her boyfriend. Everything else outside her relationship she knows she has my 100% support. Not the asshole. No amount of love is worth the abuse and you were blunt about it. You don't like the dude and she knows it. It was stupid of her to think a wedding would make you be okay with him. Not the asshole, but I think you should reconsider. Abusive relationships rely on power and control. You've made it easier for him to separate her from her family and easier for him to control her. At the same time, much harder for her to reach out when she needs help. Not the asshole for exactly the reasons you describe. It's her choice to marry, but your choice not to approve of it. Not the asshole at all. You have been consistent with your feedback. You have shown respect because you stopped bringing it up, but that doesn't mean you like it. You were asked a question and answered honestly. You made sure the two of you were okay by talking it through. I think you would be the asshole if you don't go to the wedding at all, but participating in the wedding in such a big role implies you are blessing this union. You're absolutely right to say what you did. I don't blame you a bit. Not the asshole. This guy sounds like a piece of work. Hugs. You are not the asshole. You are correct that giving away the bride is about trusting the other person and that relationship. Since she has talked to you about things about her relationship, she can't hold it against you for not supporting that relationship. As for your reasons why giving the bride away bothers you, it is simply because you care for her. Nobody likes seeing someone they care about sad. With that said, it is okay for you to not want to fulfill the role she wants you to fill. That doesn't mean you don't love her. Sometimes the best support comes from distance. Not the asshole. You should not attend a wedding if you don't support the marriage, and you certainly shouldn't participate in one. I hope your niece understands that you're always there for her as an individual, even though you're not a fan of them as a couple. Am I the asshole for warning kids about their Pokémon cards' value? Today, I was at my local card game store to play some Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I want to disclaim that me and the shopkeeper are really good friends, and after this nothing really changed. So, nearing closing time and some kids enter the shop, and they have brought their Pokémon cards with them. I don't exactly get where they bought it, but they had these Pokémon card boxes to open. One kid, I believe is around 10 years old, opens his box and they find this especially rare Charizard V Max, worth €160. That is an extremely lucky card pull. The shopkeeper offered them to exchange the cards for some packs or maybe some cards from his collections, but I noticed something. The exchange was clearly not going to be fair, in terms of value. The card was worth a lot of money and what the shopkeeper was giving the kid in exchange did not come close. Later, I go to the kid and show him the price on cardmarket.com. This card is worth €160. If you're going to exchange it for something, be careful what you exchange it for. Which I think is fairly normal advice, although I'm not sure if the kid will remember it. The kids ask questions and later the shopkeeper brings me to the side and asks me what the heck I was doing. I am forced to admit, since he heard the kids asking the value of other cards. I know you had no ill intentions, but they're 10-year-old kids and you want to make them think about making money through trading cards? They just want the cool cards, they all want a Charizard. I rarely see kids who just want the cool cards, now everyone only cares about a card's value. They go on YouTube and see popular YouTubers pull nice cards and immediately say, this card is worth X dollars. Is that the message you want to send to these kids? That all cards are just money? That a card is worth only its value in money? It's a really toxic mentality that ruins the fun. Now, I get that you just wanted to show them, but next time please think about this. This quote may not be 100% accurate as it's from my memory and through translation. Hearing that, I began to think that he was at least partially right. They're kids that want the cool cards and that's it. I can never look at a card I find and say, that's a really cool card, without looking at the price, because I either read it and think it's just a bad card to play, or I immediately recognize the card and it just goes in a binder to be played or sold later. In the end nothing hard happened between us, I excused myself and that was the end of it. I often hear stories of people who gave off cards as children, or who exchanged really cool cards for something else. Years later, out of curiosity they check the card's value and find out that they threw away a small fortune without even being aware of it, and regret ensues. I just wanted to avoid the kid making a really bad exchange and possibly regretting it later, and I did that knowing that it could possibly hurt the shopkeeper in a way, so in a sense I did have ill intentions. Am I the asshole? Edit. I don't know if the kid will listen to me since he is still willing to take the shopkeeper's offer. Not the asshole, your shopkeeper pal is a prick for trying to con a 10-year-old. Not the asshole. It totally sounds like the shopkeeper is trying to scam them by offering less than the card is worth. If money doesn't motivate your shopkeeper friend, why isn't he giving the cards to them for free? If he really was in it for the love of the cards, he would be doing just that. Not the asshole, I was lucky enough to have someone warn me when I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And realized that it's necessary to know the value of your cards. You saved that kid money and stopped the kid from getting scammed. Not the asshole, if that card was valuable, the shopkeeper wasn't trading to trade them cooler cards. They would like more. He was trying to make a quick buck by taking advantage of some 10-year-olds. You did the right thing, op. Not the asshole, and that shopkeeper played you like a fiddle. He did that knowing he was taking those kids for a rid. What an absolute dickhead. Not the asshole, but be aware that value of rare cards is high because they have to meet conditions. Even a brand new straight from the pack card might not qualify as NM or high number grade, and that's the money value you're telling the kids about. I'm all for telling kids to check the rarity of cards before trades, but also explain grading values and the fact you have to pay to get cards graded if you're going to get that kind of money for them. Not the asshole. That owner should be ashamed of himself. Not the asshole. It might take them years to realize, but they'll be glad they had the information at the time if at some future point they find out it was worth more than they realized. Am I the asshole for refusing to send my father-in-law pictures of my newborn son? Both I, 28M, and my wife, 29F, might be the assholes here. My wife is from another state and her entire family still lives there. Mill divorced Phil when my wife and my wife's brother were just kids because he wasn't helping raise the kids and literally sat around their house while she did all of the work. He only wanted to hang out with his friends and take all of the credit for being a father without putting in any of the work. He craves attention. He just became a grandfather and now he wants all of that credit while showing no interest. My wife gave birth to our first son, who we will call Jeffrey, a little over a month ago. Phil was not at the hospital during the birth but arrived hours later and spent maybe 20 minutes holding him. He asked my wife when she was going to lose her baby weight, and when it upset her he went out to the waiting room where he spent hours telling my grandparents, who had not yet met Jeffrey, about his birth and about the pregnancy. A week after Jeffrey was born, my Phil came over to stay with us for several days. He took a picture holding Jeffrey and put it on Facebook and Instagram. He kept telling us about the amount of comments and likes that he was getting for that picture of him with Jeffrey. Other than holding Jeffrey for that photo, he sat on the couch the entire time while my wife had to clean up after him. Since then we've taken 400+ pictures of Jeffrey that we've put into our own private Google album online, and we have shared the link with my family and a few of my wife's family members, excluding my Phil. This is because he never asks about Jeffrey or checks in on him, but will take every photo that my wife sends him or puts on Instagram and post it all over his social media so he gets a bunch of comments and likes. He takes screenshots of her Instagram posts and uploads them to Facebook, saying things like, "My grand puppies love my grandson," and "Jeffrey is 3 weeks old and get cuter every day." People constantly congratulate him on being a grandfather and say things like, "He takes after you." We stopped texting him photos of Jeffrey since he was doing this and stopped posting on Instagram. Recently Phil texted my wife and didn't ask how Jeffrey was doing but wanted to know where his photos were. Since he couldn't get any photos of Jeffrey on Instagram, he went on Snapchat and took screenshots of a couple random photos of Jeffrey that my wife shared and then uploaded them on Facebook so he could get his comments and likes. My wife and I are somewhat conflicted. We feel bad that we don't send him photos because Jeffrey is his first grandchild. We still haven't gave him a link to that private photo album because he will just post all of the photos online for the attention. Everyone else gets to see these photos of Jeffrey except for my father-in-law. We want to share our son with him, but we don't want him to use Jeffrey just for his ego. So, are we the assholes for not sending my Phil pictures of Jeffrey? Not the asshole. The fact that he didn't ask how your son was doing but asked where the pictures of him were speaks volumes. Personally, I wouldn't want someone sharing lots on pictures of my kid on social media this way, even if they were close to them, but especially not when he clearly is just doing it for attention. Would be interested to see how he'd react if you said you'd share more pictures with him, but he's no longer allowed to post them on social media because you don't want loads of pics of Jeffrey on there. Not the asshole. However, I think you need to actually communicate with him. Something along the lines of, you aren't comfortable with people you don't know seeing photos of your son and it should just be for family. If he agrees, then maybe start slow by sending the odd photo and see what he does. If he doesn't respect your boundaries, then say enough is enough. This is your child that you will love and raise, and if all he is to your Phil is a photo shoot, then he doesn't need to be around. Not the asshole. Did you ever consider telling him why you feel this way? Not the asshole Phil sounds a little narcissistic. Info: have you asked him to stop posting these pictures? Not the asshole. Your job as a dad is to protect this wee man. You need to put boundaries in place and stick to them. It's only been a month and he is acting like a junkie, still trying to maintain a social media high at your child's expense. Quietly put the word out there that you don't want the shared photos to be sent to him. What is the best thing for you, your wife, and for Jeffrey? Sounds like you feel guilty and stressed about this. Either you are happy and live with this and are okay, which is perfectly fine, not the asshole, or you let Phil have access to some photos. Who cares about his ego? I don't see that as the point. But how he impacts your family is. If sending a few photos that he then uses to stroke his ego makes you happy, then cool. If you don't want him in your life and that makes you happy, then cool. He hasn't earned anything to deserve anything from you. So your choice. What makes your family happy? How about stop posting photos of your kid to social media altogether? Problem solved. The same way your Phil is taking screenshots, someone else can, and those pics are floating around the internet without your son's consent.